Welcome back to the Relationships Made Simple for Men podcast with me, Bryce Bauer. Today, I'm going to be talking about dating in 2025. This episode should be helpful to men and women, but there's a few subtle things that might only apply to men. So I'd say about 20% of my clients are single. Some have never been married, but most of them are divorced. And if you were married for 10 or 20 years, the thought of dating can feel really overwhelming. And a lot has changed just in the last 10 years. For instance, Jenny and I actually met on a dating app, Tinder. And at the time, it was the only app that I was aware of. There were different sites that you could get onto with your laptop, but as far as I know, Tinder was like the first well-known dating app. And because I had just spent a couple of years overseas and was really out of the loop with my friends and the community up in Salt Lake City, I just didn't know how I was going to meet women. I wasn't really that nervous to approach women at a coffee shop or at the gym, but it just seemed way less efficient because I didn't know if they had a partner or if they were interested in dating. And it can be hard to start that conversation and get all that information when you're meeting someone for the first time and maybe their attention is elsewhere. So, bottom line, I felt like if I wanted to find someone and be efficient about it, I should try online dating. And even though I didn't know I'd be explaining my dating strategy to people in my work as often as I do, it turns out that it really was effective. I mean, it worked for me and it has worked for other people I've worked with too. And it really is pretty simple. There's a few things to do and a few things not to do and a mindset to have. And all that together will increase your chance of success in dating. But before I get to that, I just want to highlight some of the objections and concerns that I hear people bring up and touch on why those might actually be getting in the way of you finding a partner. The first one is people's mindset around online dating. Again, you don't have to do online dating. You can go out into the community, go to meetups, meet people at church, have your friends introduce you to people. I mean, there are a lot of ways to meet people, but online dating is a way to supercharge the amount of single people that you're going to come into contact with. And the number one objection I hear to online dating is that it's just a mess. It can be tough to get matched with people. Sometimes there are paywalls. People don't respond, or they're not totally honest in their profiles, or they're not that serious about dating, or they just want to hook up. And what I tell people is, this is the reality of dating either way. A lot of people don't know what they want. A lot of people are not good communicators, and they might just ghost you if they don't want to talk to you because they can't be honest with you. They don't want to hurt your feelings. Some people really aren't available for a relationship. You know, all these things are already true about dating. It just looks bigger and looks like more of a problem when you're connecting with more people. And it's your job. You have to take responsibility for creating the filters and the systems to weed out the people that don't want to connect with you or who are not good fits or who aren't available, to not waste your time texting someone for days or weeks or months. That is your job and you're in control of it. And even when you do meet someone off the dating apps, you need to keep in mind that you're trying to find a life partner. It's a really big deal. It's a high stakes relationship. And so you should be picky and people should be picky back. It is really hard to make that type of connection. And in a lot of ways, I think it's some sheer luck. Like if I hadn't met Jenny, who knows what my life would have looked like and what type of partner I would have been with. But it just so happens we were on the apps at the same time. We connected quickly, met up within a day or two, and the rest is history. So it really can be like trying to find a needle in a haystack. So as far as your mindset goes, it's not helpful to be pessimistic or negative or to blame the dating apps. You need to see how difficult of a task this really is and treat it like an adventure to learn more about yourself. And hopefully you find someone. But just like anything, there might be some trial and error. So don't give up. Keep your head up. Keep being yourself. Don't change for somebody else. And realize that this is going to take some time and attention and effort. And it might even take some money, whether you have to sign up for a subscription or get some dating help or take a course. If you're willing to do whatever it takes, you're going to have a higher chance of success. And don't judge other people for how they show up in the dating sphere. You never know what someone's going through. If someone ghosts you or doesn't call you back after a first date or isn't really available or doesn't know what they want, just take in the information and move on. You don't want to waste your time with someone who isn't a good fit. I see people do this all the time with dating. I'm thinking about an example. This is a while back, but I had a friend who got into a long-term relationship with someone and they lived in a different state. And one day I asked him, because he was really into her, I was like, who's moving, you or her? Because there's no way to take your relationship to the next level if you live in different states. And he was like, well, she said she's definitely not moving. And I don't think I'm going to move either because I have my business here. And I was kind of confused because I was like, well, what is going to happen then? To be fair, I think he was kind of drunk on love and she was really into him too. And so they just didn't think about it. But it turns out after a couple of months traveling back and forth, that was the thing that they could not reconcile. And so they broke up. And that's okay. Sometimes you have to go through that learning and to look back and see that this wasn't going to work out anyways. But I just want to remind you to be on the lookout for any non-negotiable things that might come up while you're dating, to know what those are for you or for someone else, and to be honest about them. And sometimes that means you have to walk away even though you really like someone. And by the same token, sometimes it's worth sticking something out with someone to see if you can find some common ground. Sometimes people leave relationships early on because they think something's non-negotiable when it really was. And I know those might be contradicting ideas here, but the process and the mindset is the same. Be honest, know what you want, take into account both the emotion and the logic of the situation. Be compassionate with yourself and keep trying. If this is something you really want to do, then give it your all. And so I'm going to go into my online dating system, and this will apply to in-person interactions too, people you don't meet on the apps. But I'm going to talk about the apps because from what I can see, most people use the apps, at least some. The first thing you want to do is to take some time thinking about what you want to show to your potential partners. And the reality is that this is going to be somewhat shallow. Often the first thing people are seeing is your picture, and they might not even read anymore. They just see the picture. So it's worth taking some good pictures of yourself, really highlight who you are. If you like to dress up, take a picture dressed up. If you like to be outside, take a picture outside. If you have kids, take a picture with your kids. That's not something you want to hide. The second thing you want to do in writing your bio, I'd recommend being really honest about what you want. Sure, write about who you are and what you're into, and get really clear about the type of person you want to be with. So if you want someone who's looking for a long-term committed partnership, if you want someone who has self-awareness or emotional intelligence, or who goes to therapy or who has gone to therapy, say that. Personally, I don't think anyone who's never been to therapy or done any type of coaching is going to be that informed on their own emotions and relationships and is going to have tools for communicating, because you don't really learn that anywhere else. So it's okay to put that out there. And one thing to remember is that you're not trying to attract everybody. What you're trying to do is attract people who are good fits for you and drive away people who are not. This is the filter. You'd rather get less matches and have less conversations than waste your time with people who are not good fits. And now let's talk about that initial message. When I was doing online dating, I basically copy and pasted the same message to anyone who I wanted to meet up with. And that was the goal. It was to meet up in person within that week. If someone was really slow to get back, it told me they weren't serious. I'm talking like a day or two. If they couldn't meet up within the week and they didn't have a valid reason, that tells me that they might not have space for a relationship, or they aren't that serious about dating. So the message that I sent to everyone that I wanted to meet up with, there might have been some slight differences, but it was essentially, hey, I think you're cute. Would you want to meet up for coffee this week? Now you might be thinking, that's it. That's the brilliant phrase that you copy and pasted. And if you know me, you know that that fits my personality, because I like to get straight to the point. And I don't want to waste time asking questions over text. I already know that you can read some about me. I can read some about you. If you like what you see, let's meet up. It's low stakes. It's in a public place. We're not committed to something that is going to be a big investment either way. It's easy to exit if it doesn't feel right. And women that appreciated, like my wife, that very direct way of communicating, it caught their attention. Now, I went on a few other dates before I met Jenny, and I even dated someone who it turned out still married but separated and didn't tell me. And that was a bummer. But I didn't get all bent out of shape about it. I simply told her, okay, this isn't going to work for me. We can just be friends. And I moved on. So you don't have to do it exactly like me. But I think that women appreciate direct communication from men. They appreciate a man who knows what he wants. That I think is very true. And granted, I was pretty self-assured at that point in my life. I had just spent a couple of years traveling around the world. I was feeling confident. So you might have to do some work on your own confidence or insecurities. But just remember, you're showing up and you want to present yourself as you are. And if someone ignores your direct ask, I'd recommend just staying with it. You're not going to create a relationship online prior to meeting up. You can create pseudo relationships and be in a fantasy about what this could be. But some people can be really great texters and not great communicators in person. So if someone keeps engaging over text, I wouldn't let that go on for very long. Are we meeting up or not? You can gather a lot of information right from the start. Now, if you are able to set up this low stakes hangout, I'd recommend doing it in a public place, because as men, we have to think about this. If we invite someone over to our place, women don't always feel safe. We want to create a culture of safety from the beginning. Now, when we're first making contact, it's a reality that the first few seconds and even few minutes inform a lot of this person's stories about who we are. They're really trying to get our vibe. So again, I'd recommend being yourself, trying to be relaxed, trying to get to know them, ask them questions, but not too fast, because that can be overwhelming. And to avoid things like self-deprecation and talking really negatively, that can be off-putting when you come in and just start complaining about someone or something or dating. To practice being warm and curious and safe. This is what the first meeting is really about. You may or may not turn out to be a good fit, but you at least want this person to have a good time, and you want to have a good time. Don't put too much pressure on yourself or them. And it's normal to walk away from this first interaction and maybe be self-conscious or second guess some of the things you said, but they might be doing the same thing. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Personally, I would never set up a second date on the first date because I didn't want to introduce that when there was any pressure. Sometimes we need time to process how this interaction went before we decide if we want to meet up again. And it's funny because looking back, Jenny says that she was disappointed that I didn't ask to go on a second date at the end of our first date. But she got over it pretty quick when I reached out a couple of days later and asked if she wanted to get together again. So you can do this however you want. That's just my opinion. Now, if you did like this meeting and you enjoyed this person's company and there weren't any red flags, I'd recommend setting up another meeting fairly soon after to show that you're interested, because guys often play the role of the pursuer. It's just the reality. So I wouldn't count on them to reach out to you. I'd follow up the next day and say, hey, I had a really good time. Would you want to meet up again? And the same logic applies to setting up the first date. If they're like, oh yeah, I'm really busy, I'll let you know, or they don't respond for a few days, or they just start to engage in text conversation, I'd stay with what you want. And if you're not getting what you want, I'd move on. And you never know, maybe when the ball's in their court, they'll reach back out. But again, I don't think you want to waste too much time on someone who's not available or who doesn't seem interested. And from there, I think it's important that you are able to meet up with this person at least once a week to see if you're a good fit, to see if you both have space in your life to have a relationship. Because if you can't both make the time to meet up at least once a week, the timing might not be right. If you're thinking about the pacing of getting into a relationship, you probably need at least 10 hangouts before you really get a sense of this person. And I could get into the next phase of dating, but I think I'll just stop it there. If you are dating, just focus on the first phase now. I'll probably do a follow-up later. If you are taking on this challenge, whether you've never been in a relationship or you're recently divorced, or whatever your situation is, I really wish you the best. Things like listening to a podcast on dating help you become an informed partner. The reason why I think people get so frustrated with dating is because they're not educated. They're just winging it. They don't know what they want. They don't know how to get what they want, and they don't know how to communicate directly and effectively. That's what's most frustrating. I think that's why dating and online dating gets such a bad rap. It's not because of the apps, it's because of our culture and the lack of guidance that so many people have received with relationships. And if you want some help on this, you can go to my website, get the first session half off, www.brycebauer.com. That's all I got for today. Peace.